as enterprises continue to grow and thrive, it's evident that, the growth in that area is very important to stay competitive in the market. I think that's where the telcos, the service providers, have a very important role to play in terms of a connectivity infrastructure and digital offerings. To take this discussion forward, we would like to have this discussion, which is telcos tryst with enterprise digital transformation. Hi, I'm Yogesh Sharma, a moderator for this session. Quickly, I want to introduce the esteemed panelists. We have Mr. Ganesh Lakshmi Narayan, the CEO, Airtel Business. He has more than 30 years of experience and leads the company's business operations strategies in the Indian market. Please, Mr. Ganesh, welcome. The next in line, we have Mr. Marshall. He's a Vice President and General Manager of India and South Asia, having more than 35 years of experience and responsible for driving open source solution in the region. A very warm welcome to Mr. Marshall, please. We have Ms. Matangi Sandilya. She's a Managing Director and Technology Lead in the CMT sector. She specializes in cloud-first networks with more than 20 years of experience. Welcome, Matangi, on the stage, please. And then we have Mr. Ajay Nijavan, the Director and Head of Cloud Communications at Intel India. With more than 20 years of experience, he is responsible in guiding companies' effort in cloud and communication technologies, contributing Intel's presence in these domains. Welcome, Mr. Ajay. To start with, I think a question to Mr. Ganesh. It's evident that all the enterprises needs digital transformation, and telcos have a key role in that. How do you see the role of telcos in the opportunities around this, and how do you see the role of telcos to expand the digital transformation? Yes, I can hear you at least.
I got two. This is what telcos do. We give you one line and we expect another line as bandwidth backup.
That's a redundancy.
It's redundancy. Huh? Sir, the way it goes, there will be only two. I have to hope that one of them work. Thank you. So, telco's role in enterprise digital transformation. The way we look at it for a long time, Airtel and telcos like Airtel have been thought of as a pipe provider. And only when you remember, when your pipe goes down, you'll remember a telecom. I think what the unique advantage we have, and most telcos have across the world, is that we have a direct relationship with every single customer, B2B customer in India. If I speak for Airtel myself, we have from very small store, retail, to mid-tier companies, to enterprise, all the way to global. We have our own sales force interacting with these telcos. And if you look at what's going on in the country today, during COVID, we all order shoes online, we order pizzas online, we order our medicine online, and we knew exactly where those were every second, every minute, but we didn't know where our oxygen cylinders were. So the way we look at this from Airtel is the 4G was a platform which digitized the front of India, right? So, but the supply chain, the factories have not been fully digitized yet. And we are hoping that the 5G will digitize the back end of India. So our investments in Airtel is going into helping companies digitize the supply chain and logistics. And hopefully that will help us, God forbid, if there is another situation like this, we will know where our oxygen cylinders were. So that's where our digital investments are going.
I think I must agree to a fact the pipe became a lifeline during COVID, and that's how it is expanding day by day. Taking this thought forward, to Marshall. So I think, Marshall, we all know the way enterprises are shaping up. They look at digital transformation in some form and shape with different facets. And they look at open source solution is the key. And it will also drive the innovation. What are your views? And do you think it's going to be a mainstream in coming days?
So first of all, I think I would like to appreciate what Ganesh and team did for digital transformation. I'll talk a little bit about digital transformation and then come to your question. So first of all, I think digital transformation was always on the agenda of CIOs. And we have been talking to them for a long time. But pandemic was a big change agent. While this was a huge challenge for the world, I think overnight things change. And if you really look at what has happened post-pandemic, things have changed. So a couple of things. One thing, first thing first, is overnight, we had to transact business from home without doing anything. People just didn't get out of it. All the applications had to turn into mobile, available on smartphones. There were many things had to be done. For telcos, for example, typically what people do is go to offices, business district, and consume bandwidth. Now, many homes became corporates consuming bandwidth, right? And so I think today what I see is many of our enterprise customers have become tech companies. They are building software factories. It is all about building smart application and getting them faster. So I'll talk about few verticals where we have seen a huge part, and then I'll come to how open source has played into it. So look at banking. You look at front office, back office, mid office, and look at the transformation that has happened in the banking. UPI, that was a big thing. I mean, today I don't have to talk about the volume of UPI transaction. I can buy a newspaper, I can go to a vegetable vendor and transact business. Look at how it has scaled. Look at digital currency. That's another big transformation. You look at, yesterday we spoke about the IT stack that India has built. And I mean, there are many innovative applications which have been built. From our perspective, I think we power all this transformation by a couple of things. We as Red Hat, we have mission critical platforms that we have built. It is all about bringing new application faster. And what we do is we power the hybrid cloud. And that is done in an open source way. So, I mean, we have an application development platform, we have an automation platform, and basically the intention is you give that freedom and choice and bring that open source innovation which happens. So as Red Hat, we work with upstream community and then work downstream with the customer and make sure that that innovation, that innovation which comes actually goes to the enterprises and government, right? Eventually, the IT has been built based on what was available at that point in time, okay? But today it is powered by open source. You see all the new things that is happening in India, all the stack that we have built, or generative AI, all that is fueled by open source. So one thing I can say for sure that going forward, a lot of innovation will come from open source. And the reason for that is there are millions of developers who are working, trying to solve these big problems. And so they will continuously innovate. And it's not just about technology. It's about collaborating. It is about building application in a smart way. And it's also as much as technology, also as a culture.
Sure. And how do you see the uptake which is happening for the open source kind of a platforms and the systems, if I may ask?
It is huge. I mean, you see all the technologies. I mean, you look at vaccine control, COVID management, all the applications which came overnight, most of them were on open source. You look at generative AI. I spoke about all the applications which are powering UPI or the mission critical platform that government of India has built, all through open source. So there's a huge uptake.
Sure, thank you. I think I just noted a power enterprise transformation that goes to Matangi now. So we talked about front, middle, and the back office integrations which are happening. But is it too simple to integrate all this? Because enterprises have their inherent challenges. They've never thought of a COVID era, and now they're facing some challenges to the transformation. How do you think the challenges, maybe they're coping up with existing business processes, and what do you think is the best way to move forward?
Great question, Yogesh. I mean, I think there's nobody who does not want to transform, right? And also get on into this whole digital transformation journey. But there are a number of challenges that they're facing, starting from incumbent legacy application system landscapes, the business processes that are currently running, which are probably tuned to what was the old ways of working. The mindset shift that Marshall just spoke about in terms of even the employee base and the skill set and capacity that's available, and this huge pace of technology change that's happening all around. All of this put together it's an elephant in the room, and we have to acknowledge that there is an elephant in the room, and it cannot be eaten in one shot. So it definitely requires a surgical precision in how you want to do this exercise, and it also should be aligned with what your priority is at that point in time, because I don't think anybody has the wherewithal to invest in all of this at one shot. Having said that, in a particular space, it's always good to look at it from an overall total enterprise reinvention outlook. I mean, I'm going back to what Ganesh just said. It's not just the front end that needs to be digitized, it's also the back end, and how the whole thing then comes to life with a strategy which needs to be it's probably a constant evolution of that strategy as well as execution of that. So it's not just the strategy, but also how you execute it. So to your question, how do you go about it? I mean, number one, acknowledge where you are in that journey in terms of understanding your challenges and looking at it in a digestible portion, but still look at it holistically, because you're looking at this as your total enterprise and not just one domain or one particular unit.
And Matangi, you just meant we have to all push elephant in the room. What do you think? Strategy is the bigger problem, or it's the implementation side?
I think it's the combination that's what will make this work, right? I mean, you can come up with a great strategy, but if you cannot execute it, then, I mean, the strategy is good on paper, what next? But at the same time, if you start jumping into the execution and start looking at it in that myopic view, then you may not necessarily look at what could be opportunities that you can leverage beyond that point. So it's a combination, and it isn't strategy one time and then an execution subsequently, but it's strategy, but evolving strategy that you can quickly validate, turn around, and not necessarily be boiled and bogged down by what was past precedences.
Thank you. That goes to Mr. Ajay. I think we spoke on incumbents. I think the startups and the new players who are coming in. How do you think the readiness of our ecosystem? Because for an enterprise to undergo a digital transformation, you need an ecosystem. You need a push from the silicon providers. You need support from the software developers, software platforms, and then the SI partners. Do you think we have an ecosystem which is well flourished now to make this happen?
See, first of all, I think, thank you for having me here. And yeah, I think if we're talking about digital transformation in enterprises, it's a very big ecosystem. There are lots of parts in the puzzle which need to be, put together to really make it work. Right from silicon provider to an app developer to a telecom operator to a system integrator. And first of all, I would say, having a right problem which you can go and solve together. So, I think the pieces are of the mix are far too many, and it is going to take time to really get everything integrated together and work in a perfect way, but things are falling in place.
And do you think the ecosystem is ready, or it is going to take some time before we vouch on this journey for an end-to-end implementation?
So ecosystem, I think is ready, but yeah, we got to really have the right problems and the right economy. Those are the kind of issues which got to be tackled. But yeah, ecosystem, different players are definitely ready with different parts, and there are people already putting everything together as well. So I think that part is kind of taken care of.
That's a very good thought, Ajay. I'll come back to Ganesh again on that point. So I think the ecosystem is there to a large extent. The intent is there. But what enterprises are looking for, I think 3 Cs, maybe the channel, content, and the communication. And telcos themselves are undergoing the digital transformation in some way. How do you look at these changes which telcos are having themselves and the way they're transforming the enterprises? How do you think this level of collaboration is happening?
So I think, telcos have long been selling point products. If you come to a telco salesperson, we will sell you an MPLS, we will sell you an internet, we will sell you an SMS, WhatsApp, we will sell you PRI lines. I think we have all been trained to sell that way, and we have been extremely fortunate to have demand coming that way. But now it's changing. I think the companies are looking for solutions. So let me bring this to life. In 3 years in this country, there will be 250 million smart meters. Every one of your meters will go digital. And when you look at it, or what it takes for a smart meter to work, you need the channel, which is the communication channel, what you mentioned. You need the infra, right? And you need an application to capture it and send it out. And you need analytics on top of it to make sense out of all of this, right? If telco was last 2-3 years ago, we would have been very happy to sell you the SIM card, and it is a very profitable, simple business. But now we are thinking about it differently, right? So we are bringing a full integrated meter management, which has got its own cloud, it's got its own application, it's got communication which can work on everything, NB-IoT, RF, and really trying to bring this as a one solution. And the only thing you will need is implementation. Even there, we're trying to implement a meter the same way we will implement a router in your home. So we have a nationwide workforce. So I think the way for us is to think away from selling point products to solutions. And I'll give you a BFSI example. So if you're talking to a bank, we were very happy selling you mobility, we will sell you branch connectivity, all that. Now with banks' need is, every one of them is trying to go up the value chain. They are trying to serve their premium customers. They have all these relationship managers. I'm sure you all have relationship managers. Now the requirement for a relationship manager is that they need a phone number which you can communicate with them, whether it is India, outside. They can also communicate with you on WhatsApp. All of this is captured so that when the relationship manager leaves, the customers don't leave with them. Now we are bringing a solution like this to a bank so that this is an integrated solution across multiple channels. It is secure, it's telco grade, it's scalable. What we would have been happy selling, just the connectivity, we are now translating this into all the 3 things you talked about. It's a journey for all of us. It's good that the enterprise customers are looking to telcos to solve some of these problems. They're realizing that telcos have the security and the scale to solve some of these problems. And that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for us.
Maybe Ganesh, just a point. We keep on saying with IoT and 5G, it is going to bring in telco plus capabilities. And that's what we needed for enterprise transformation. How true is that? Maybe that's a point we are discussing everywhere.
When everybody has 5G phones, yeah. Everybody's bill hasn't changed. You're paying the same amount. So that means we all have to make money from B2B, and that's the reality. And if you come to Airtel booth, and please come, you will only see B2B, you won't see B2C use cases, right? So IoT is real. There is money to be made in IoT. There is enough use cases. You guys see it. You have your electric vehicles running, connected cars. You will have smart meters. All these sound boxes you pay, Paytm, 10 rupees has been paid on Paytm, Bharat Pay. All of that runs on our IoT devices. It looks very simple use case, but it makes a lot of money for our customers like Paytm and Bharat Pay or Phone Pay, and which is good for us as well. So I think IoT is real. I don't know whether 5G is real yet. I really look forward to people like Ajay and our friend Matangi to bring solutions. I think 5G private network, we are trying. The ecosystem is developing. The devices have to come on board. Use cases have to come on board. The back end of India getting digitized is going to be done on the 5G private network. I am very confident in 2 to 3 years, I think this will be a good thing.
Okay, thank you. That goes to Marshall now. I think we touch base on the IoT. Now, we're all hearing that if we give an intelligence to the customer endpoints, it makes more sense for the enterprises to transform because customer experience is the key thing. How do you look at edge computing gaining the prominence? Because getting the intelligence to the edge node points looks very important because that drives the enterprise revolution for the enterprises. How do you think the relevance and how can we do that?
So, Yogesh, I mean, this is in some sense, extension of what you asked Ganesh, right? This is about how do you improve customer service? How do you empower end customer? How do you take decision closer to the customer or closer to the user? And that's where the need for edge emerges. I think I earlier spoke about hybrid cloud. And hybrid cloud, in a way, is extending from core, I mean, private cloud to public cloud to edge, really. I think there are more and more edge use cases which are evolving. So there is a device edge, right, which is coming. There's a provider edge for Ganesh and team who are into this business. I mean, they have a huge footprint across the country. And the compute needs of those customers, the remote offices, the remote branches, the remote factories, where there are huge latency needs, right, can be made by them. There are infrastructure bottlenecks. And that also needs a lot of innovation. How do you build a small factor server? How do we kind of have a small factor Kubernetes platform or OS? That becomes very, very important, right? So today, from a technology perspective, I think the business impact of it is very clearly decision-making, empowerment, cost reduction, because the data need not flow all the way, right? The decision can happen there. Also from a security perspective. So there is a compelling use case for edge computing, as I see, and it should only grow. The challenge we have is, and we were just talking about before we came here, as to the use cases. IoT is very clearly, Industry 4.0 is a use case. There are many use cases in healthcare, etc. And they are evolving. I think you earlier asked a question on ecosystem to him, right? And ecosystem plays a very important role. So one is getting that infrastructure, software available, getting application available, but getting use cases. And what I'm particularly enthused about, I think I attended 3 or 4 events in last few months. We did our own ISV event to get more application onboarded. I think they are doing some amazing work, and in terms of the startup ecosystem. And I guess they are really trying to solve business problem, and that will lead to a lot of use cases which will increase the demand for edge.
Okay, sure. So going back to Matangi. So Matangi, just a recap, yesterday our Honorable Prime Minister did speak on digital infrastructure, rollout to reach out, and the tech innovation. How do you think, or how do you envisage the future of digital enterprises? If we say that digital is going to be the one word that is going to define enterprises, how do you think the future of enterprises, and what are the key things that we need to keep in mind from maybe the stack players or the ecosystem providers to keep in mind to make it happen?
I think the possibilities are enormous, not just because technology is advanced so much, but also because the intent is right there, right now, that it's also almost become a burning platform that if you don't act on it, there is clear possibilities of being disrupted. So with all of this coming together, the possibilities are truly immense. And I think the fact that there is also some very definitive regulatory actions happening is also a great sign in the whole ecosystem. Having said that, I mean, if I just go back to the analogy of just technology, just to ground this whole concept a little bit more, I would say the future digital enterprise is going to be centered around data. There isn't really going to be a set of applications and how you can interact with applications, but it's really about data and how data can then define and decide what the next action should be. It's not just about insights, but it's about moving from, I mean, I think we've moved beyond applications and just core infrastructure to platforms to now really talking and centering everything around data. Not just because of the opportunities with Gen AI, but even otherwise, the realization that data in its true format could really change the way we look at possibilities within the enterprise and outside, and how you can define your ecosystem partnerships also subsequently is really what's going to change the way we look at it. So in my mind, the pivot will be on data, and as long as enterprises acknowledge this and work towards building the right ecosystem that pushes up the foremost positioning that you have on data, I think the digitalization would be much simpler to achieve.
Thank you. I think there's a traction from a regulatory you mentioned, and obviously from the ecosystem players. How do you see the intent from the enterprises? Because we always talk about business case and ROI. How do you look at this to shape up? Because it's a cost-sensitive market. And they're also looking at how they're going to make money with this digital transformation.
Yeah, and totally right. I mean, I think the starting point is, of course, a cost takeout, but it doesn't stop with the cost takeout. Can I take out cost, but can I invest it in a self-sustaining model that can then allow me to go towards the next growth path is really what enterprises are truly thinking about right now. And that's really the pivot in the intent as well. So it starts with cost, no doubt, but it quickly translates into, do I have the appetite to test and explore on newer business value streams? And can I do this in quick and smaller scale so that I can validate and move on into the next space?
Sure.
I think that's the critical element here.
Sure, thanks. Over to Ajay. I think we did talk about how enterprise look at from a business case perspective. At the same time, there are certain sectors which are coming up with the use cases. How do you think the infrastructure importance? Because we all talk about the availability of digital infrastructure. What are the key use cases that are coming with a game changer kind of environment for the enterprises? And how do you look at the implementation on a larger scale?
Okay, so first of all, I'd just like to add a bit more to what Madangi just now said about the enterprise intent. I think this is something which is inevitable. It's the competition, which is going to really put pressure. And I don't know whether some of you guys saw, there was an article just 2 days back on Siemens Galva factory in Economic Times. It was a big article, and it said that was a 50-year-old company, and the company was just dying. So they went through this digital transformation, and they improved their processes, they make the company flexible. Earlier, they were doing maybe some number of SKUs and being manufactured in that factory. They have multiplied by that multiple times. They have reduced their process time significantly, and the company is now profitable. So, I think these kind of situations you would really see in, I would say if people don't really act or companies don't act, there would be competition which would really change the game for them, and they will have to take that path one day or other if they have to really survive. So, coming to, I would say, the infrastructure part, so I would say, the use cases which you talk about, the 5G use cases, the IoT, AI, LLM, Industry 4.0, digital transformation, all of them are, dependent on infrastructure. And, I would say the infrastructure is just not space and power. It's actually, I would say, intelligent infrastructure. And, because every digital need of every different company is really different. You really need a different mix. And the infrastructure today is actually just not the servers or compute or storage, it's also the spectrum, which the operators bring in, the technology, the communication technology which you have, whether it is 4G or 5G. So all this mix has an impact on the infrastructure, and that's where you really end up with a kind of an intelligent infrastructure. So this, I would say, is one part, and for this intelligent infrastructure and heterogeneous infrastructure, you really need the entire thing to be orchestrated well together. So, And in terms of use cases, obviously, there are so many industries, wherein these use cases are being tried. In industry, you have use cases like defect detection, being used in car industry for paint defect detection, or in electronic manufacturing to see the PCB quality monitoring, or looking at use cases like construction safety or worker safety, or in retail. I think Ganesh just now talked about an example, but there are many more. You can have AI personalized experiences for customers, or you can even have promos personalized for customers. Healthcare, again, there are lots of use cases, be it the remote monitoring of the patient, or using AI scans to detect diseases way early, before they can hit any patient. So these are some of the things, some of the use cases which are kind of gaining traction for now.
Sure, thank you. I think I'll come back to Ganesh again for a concluding 1 minute kind of a message. He spoke on the lot of B2B use cases. How do you think, in terms of a maturity, are we still there, or we need few years to actually work on the advanced use cases?
Yeah, I mean, we all, as a telco, we all hope this maturity comes very soon because we need to see some money. But if you look back at 4G, right, we built the 4G and all the use cases came very, very quickly, and COVID accelerated some of it. I think the maturity is not there yet in terms of 5G, but we are very confident that it will come. I see maturity coming in a couple of dimensions. One, there needs to be a maturity from a telco side to put up a private network more efficiently, make it easily affordable by the factories, ability to make sure that the existing brownfield plans can talk to the 5G private network. So that's on us. I think that's the first maturity a telco should bring. Second is the maturity we are expecting all the device ecosystems to bring, right? Today, they've all been very happy to sell to telcos. Now they have to help me sell to enterprises like, manufacturing plants and mines, which means they need to bring up with end devices which can connect and connect to 5G. That's the second level of maturity we are looking for. Third is the compute maturity, right? Both Red Hat and Intel are here. We will need very ruggedized, affordable edge compute infrastructure to capture all the data, the drones, the vehicles, the smart meters are going to throw up. Now the existing centralized server storage, cloud AWS systems and Azure systems or hyperscale systems may not function there. We are, from a telco side, we have the infrastructure, we have the 120 edge data centers, but we need an affordable computing to come to that stage, right? That's the third stage of maturity we're looking for. And finally, people like Accenture should make use cases a little bit more well understood, not by the CIOs alone, but from the operations guys as well, so that they see the ROI, right? So, hopefully, if all this maturity comes, telcos will make money, and you guys can continue to enjoy 5G for free. So,
absolutely. I think Ganesh already asked a question from you, Marshall. In terms of computing, I would say how affordable can we make it? And do you really see open source is going to pave a way for cognitive AI, which is, we are saying that it's the ultimate objective of enterprise being digitally transformed?
So, yes, certainly. A short answer is yes. It has an impact on total cost of ownership. It generally commoditizes the infrastructure needed. Ganesh spoke about the software form factor. We already done that on our OpenShift and Linux version, which is needed to run on edge. But while we are talking about use cases, Ganesh, India has always surprised.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm optimistic on this. Because as I said, the ecosystem is amazing and it is evolving at a very fast pace. The one part I think we didn't discuss on digital transformation is about talent. And that also is very, very important, right? While we have a huge talent pool available and large supply from the university's perspective, I think how do we make it quickly deployable to the industry? How do you do the training and certification, etc.? So from our perspective, we are also playing a role, the certifications that we do, right? both on all the technologies that we do. We are also kind of tried to work with some state government and work with academia to kind of, as a part of national skill development, to get that curriculum embedded. So at an early stage, students can absorb that technology and it's made available. So I think technology is important, infrastructure is important, and I think we have built a very great digital infrastructure, I would say, but skills are also important. So the balance, evolution of all this with open source and ecosystem will actually help us accelerate. And we have already seen the acceleration that has happened in India.
Thank you. Matangi, how do you see, maybe the top 3 problems enterprises are having in either of the sectors or industry, and how do you look at as a solution or a recommendation to them?
And I think we touched upon almost all of it, right? I mean, the fact that it's around, not just around technology, but also around the mindset shift that's needed, the skills that are needed as well within the organization. Ganesh talked about make the solutions easily understandable. So the underlying problem there is the sales agents are not necessarily able to sell anything beyond
Just
connectivity.
putting it on sales back.
No.
It's always the sales is a problem.
Now maybe Matangi, since you interact with a lot of enterprises, do you think they are ready for this? Because every time we're talking about ecosystem, affordability, regulatory, policy making, are enterprise really ready? Are they having the right skills to operate and
No,
maintain that?
I'm coming to that. That's exactly why I said the skills within the organization, within an enterprise needs a shift as well. And that's because we are also changing the way we are our expectations of what we expect, people in the organization to think about is also very different, right? So that's really the biggest area to target, of course. And maybe the one other topic which we haven't necessarily touched upon is because this is a large, even on this dais now, we have people representing different parts of the whole piece that needs to come together. The interoperability that's required is something that will constantly need an intervention as well. And how do we minimize this? How do we minimize this so you're not just necessarily addressing technical debt and what's built already versus moving towards what you need to think about in the future? If I have to, look at an upgrade on Kubernetes every 3 months, can I just shift from just upgrading on Kubernetes on my every single application landscape, but really move on to something else that I want to address, which is business critical, is probably what enterprises are really bogged down with. And that we all have a collective responsibility to make that interoperability seamless and to make that easier for the adoption to happen. So I think that's a collective responsibility here.
Thank you. Maybe a last question to Ajay, which Ganesh has asked already. How do you think the role of silicon players for this to happen? Affordability always been a challenge, and how fast can we make this happen?
So I would say role of silicon providers addresses some of the challenges which Matangi also talked about. So, we as silicon providers just don't provide silicon. We also work with the ecosystem a lot. And we really want to ensure that the ecosystem really gets the best possible optimized performance and are able to scale out things faster. So, so that's the capability, and we have been, I would say, collaborating just not with our ecosystem players or cloud service providers, but also with telecom operators, or also with end customers to really see that everything they are really getting the best out of that infrastructure. So these are the pieces which silicon providers like us are kind of doing it for quite some time. Obviously silicon innovation is the most important one. And, I'm not sure if you guys have heard, Pat Gelsinger, after taking over in 2021, he announced that in 4 years we are going to have 5 nodes. So we are going to have really a very accelerated, I would say, technology innovation, which is going to really optimize the silicon considerably, giving you throughputs of performance like 2.5 to 3 times to what you get in just about a year and a half. So that's one part of the piece. And I think other thing what we just announced at Intel Innovation last month is kind of combining all these capabilities together, and we have launched a project called Project Strata. It's a single platform which is for, I would say, telecom service providers or developers or even customers. And this single platform can help you do multiple things. It has a infra layer, the foundational layer, the infra layer which is there, then we have an app layer on it, and we also have an orchestration layer. So you kind of are able to roll out things much faster the moment you adopt something like this. We would work with cloud service providers, like Red Hat or any other cloud service provider. They would be a part of the overall solution, but by collaborating with them, we would come up with a with something which telecom providers can roll out very quickly in the market.
You want to say something, Marshall? I think.
No, there's one thing I think we didn't touch upon, which is about sustainability. And I think we have a joint initiative which is about sustainability, which is all about how to optimize infrastructure. Okay, I think if you look at telco, generally it consumes around 1.5 to 2% of power, right? I mean, if you really look at it, that's the number. But the impact that it has, and compute part, how do you use the cluster? How do you optimize that? That's also a very pertinent point. And I think, Ganesh spoke about ecosystem. I think ecosystem is working and trying to collaborate to try and solve this, some of the very complex issues.
Thank you. I think with that, we can close the session. Maybe before we close, would like to take a couple of questions from the audience if they have, for any specific panelist. Please. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be popular if I say this, but I will. I think the pace can be faster. That's my, no bullshit answer. But having said that, this is a complicated situation, right? I mean, it's not that simple. It's quite complex, and it's about also. Think about it as four or five layers. In different geographies, there are different actions that are happening by telcos. They're thinking about moving the services layer completely out into a different organization, keeping the network as a separate organization, so that they can focus on improvements in each of these organizations differently, because the end customer expectation in each case is very different. We may not be able to do that from an integrated telco model that they're operating in every place and in every such situation. And the competition is all asset light disruptors. So it's a very, very difficult situation that they're operating in. So I do understand and probably empathize the reason why the pace is slow, but could it be faster? It can be.
The last question, any last question?
Thank you, Matangi.
Yes, sir. Please, sir. Yeah.
So the question is that, it's related to security. In any enterprise, the moment you come on digital, the surface or exposure is more. So should you provide services on licensed spectrum bands or unlicensed spectrum bands? That's one part, maybe Dinesh or...
We are in close period and I'm not allowed to answer.
The other one is, how do you see the potential of the automobile sector? Because, vehicle to the network of V2X, right? And every car today is fairly digitized. So in terms of the automobile sector, how you see things?
Yeah. I think the licensed versus unlicensed, Airtel is, and most telcos have answered it. We would love it to be licensed. We have paid a lot of money for it, so hopefully, we all will use only licensed spectrum. On the connected vehicle side, I think it's a very exciting. We have about pretty much 2/3 of electric vehicles in this country run on Airtel. I think what would be interesting is that what is the use case for all of us who run vehicles to pay money beyond the first, second year, right? The first year, the automobile manufacturers have enough incentive to, pay for the connection because they get a lot of telemetric information from the vehicle which they could use. The second year, the insurance companies have a lot of interest to know about the details of the vehicle. But beyond that, as a consumer, why would you pay? So I'll give you a very interesting use case. I'm sure a lot of us are going to drive electric vehicles. A lot of them are going to have swappable batteries, right? Now, if that battery, that vehicle comes with a SIM card, and that can know when the battery goes down below 80%. Imagine if that battery can call the nearest service center, and somebody comes and swaps the battery without when you're sleeping. It's like somebody is charging your phone, automatically when you're sleeping, which doesn't happen. But imagine if that could happen. That could happen with a battery and a vehicle. So there's some very interesting use cases with charging stations, which we can make it work. Entertainment consumption, which is beyond the first 2 years, which there is a value in you paying for it. That's a very interesting use case. I think there is, the basic platforms have been put in place. Now we really come up with these kind of use cases to make sure that there is enough money to be made around the system.
Thank you. I think we had an engaging session. Truly, India is driving a digital renaissance with technologies shaping the enterprise future. I think a big round of applause for the panelists for the session. Thank you so much, and thanks panelists for your time.